Copper is the new oil. It is the most important ingredient in everything that's going to grow our planet and make it greener. So think about that, and not just watch it and enjoy it. You can make money off of it by investing into copper companies. Size is expensive, but it's worth it. It's the same amount of energy to go find a small deposit as a big one. If you present a copper company to me, my first question to you is, how big is it? The second question would be, what's the grade?
And retail investors like simplicity. Like, I know that because I am one, right? When I look at a company, I want a very clear path to how I'm gonna make money. Everybody who watches this show knows it. I follow the smart money and the top performers.
If you get one of these right, Jay, you don't need to buy another mining stock. It's that kind of price return that you could potentially see as an investor.
I see a guy with a chip on his shoulder who's not done yet. My name is Jay Martin. I am an investor and the CEO of Cambridge House. Now, everything I do on this channel is done in the pursuit of improving my portfolio. Let's do it.
What I love to do is introduce the right people to the right people.
I assemble the smartest people I can think of or reach out to carry that conversation, and that's exactly what I've done today.
Please give my panel a round of applause. Welcome.
Okay, my next guest is a familiar face if you watch this show, Mr. Ivan Bebek. And the last time Ivan was on this show, he was the executive chairman of Oren Resources. Oren has since split. Ivan today appears as the chairman of Fury Gold Mines, the chairman of Tier 1 Metals, and the CEO of Sombrero Resources. Enjoy. Okay, guys, Jay Martin here, CEO of Cambridge House, and I am joined right now by Ivan Bebek. Ivan, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me back.
I'm glad to have you back because the last time we had you on, this is going back to June or July, and we were speaking to Ivan Bebek, the executive chairman of Oren Resources. And during that interview, you were alluding to what you were planning to do. And this is the split that you've now executed. And so, you know, at a high level, what's occurred is that anybody who was a shareholder of Oren is now a shareholder of 3 different companies with exciting resource potential at what we believe is the beginning of the next commodities bull market. I think when you look back on this transaction and this split, timing is going to be the most important ingredient. And so I want to talk about timing a little bit, Ivan. You know, you've been through market ups and downs. You've executed well in good markets and bad markets most recently. And so what did you see that was different? I mean, because when you founded Oren, I know you had an initial game plan of building Oren and selling it, right? In like a 5-year time horizon. Mm-hmm. But market forces changed and you spotted a bigger opportunity, a bigger vision, and that's the one you hunted down and executed. So talk to me about what you saw and why your vision changed and why you chased down this bigger opportunity.
Sure. You know, it's awesome winning, especially in the middle of a bear market as we did with Caden, and gave us a lot of ability to do more, right? And our game plan with Oren was to go find a world-class discovery, a mine that would rank in the top 20 mines on the planet, right? We raised over $100 million and spent that in that pursuit. And we came up with gold, copper, and silver swings in our portfolio. And we came to a flexion point where we didn't feel we were getting value for all 3 of these assets. So as, you know, large shareholders ourselves, we took a different approach and said, hey, how can we unlock more value, but more importantly, get paid independently per each type of discovery that we have in our portfolio? Because there's no company, Jay, that gets paid for all 3 at once, not on the exploration side anyway, right? Yeah. So when we spoke last, you know, I think after our interview, our share price doubled and it traded extremely well throughout the summer. We came to October 9th, which was the last day of trading. It was still in the 320 range for Oren, which was near a year high and multi-year high at the time. Rightfully so, because we were going to give everybody 3 shares for the shares they had. They've gotten those. There's been some complications with tax and various discount brokerage firms. It's caused some headaches, but I want to assure everyone that, you know, we're helping, we're involving ourselves where needed to mitigate those pains. But the outcome of Fury trading is kind of surprised us a lot to the downside. I mean, there was, you know, market volatility because of the election, and that part we did not plan well. We didn't know it was going to be such an uncertain event. That came into the trading, as well as a seasonal low in gold and tax loss selling, which is what we're enduring now. And everything there at Fury points to massive opportunity. I mean, for the assets we have, the fundamental value is trading about half at $1.70, 75 Canadian of where we think we should be before we add an ounce of gold. But I can say that till I'm blue in the face, Jay. And we all know that that works in good markets, but in all markets, drill holes are the most paramount way to perform as a company. And we just started a 50,000 meter drill program. We're hitting structures as we drill where we thought we would. We're really excited about that. And hearing that energy come out of the technical team, it really supports our thesis that Eau Claire, you know, an asset that has, we think, been largely misunderstood or underexplored, could go to a double or triple its current size of 1 million and change ounces of 8 grams per ton, which would be substantial for shareholders. But, you know, here's what's happening with Fury. I mean, we have a combination of assets in Canada, geopolitically amazing place. We are only getting value for Eau Claire right now. If you were in one of our 170 Zoom meetings we've done since we've created Fury, you would have heard 80% of our discussions have been about Eau Claire. Rightfully so. There's a real asset there that we think can get a lot bigger and become a mine. Now, on the other assets, Committee Bay, Homestake Ridge, and the Eleanor JV, which you hear about shortly in a press release out of Fury, these assets are not in the share price, and they never were an Orange share price really until we started talking about the final targeting and the drilling, which is going to happen in Q1 of 2021. So the one thing I will say, besides drill results are going to drive the share price, and they're pending now, you know, expected as early as January, and to be continuous, we're going to be drilling 2 types of holes in the portfolio for Fury. The kind of holes that could give investors that 5 to 10 or 20x return. Those are the kind of big discovery holes. So we're drilling one right now for Fury as I speak at Eau Claire. And then the other holes that show steady growth, but coupled really well with a rising bull market in gold. So I think that from a Fury perspective, we've gone through the hard part. We've recalibrated our shareholder base. Some people prefer Peru over Canada. Some people have given up on Committee Bay and Homestake. I most certainly haven't. I like them even more now than I have before, especially with the backdrop of $1,800 gold looking to go to way higher gold prices. I think those are going to be spectacular value injections and speculations in Fury's portfolio. But most importantly, I love the energy coming out of the drill bit. I think we've got Eau Claire right. I think it's going to be massive for Fury as a start. And while we're getting results from those Eau Claire drilling and hitting those kind of home run type of targets, I think you're going to look forward to those targets coming out of Homestake and Committee Bay. So 2 years of every month, investors will get that massive discovery look as a share price performing kind of factor while there's steady growth in that company. So I think the stock is way behind the fundamentals. It's going to enjoy a very, very busy 24 months of continuous news. And for the few people that have been quite critical towards the deal, and I kind of laugh a little bit at this on the newsletter scene, there's been a lot of people slagging us for the deal and talking about low value and stuff. And, you know, they fail to recognize the growth potential through drilling. And the fact that we started a 50,000 meter drill program and we have $20 million roughly in the treasury. We have some incoming capital from different things within the portfolio, but how could you be negative on a company that's starting a 50,000 meter drill program in a high grade gold asset in this gold environment going forward? Either way, it created a lot of opportunity. We've created a lot of new great shareholders. We've had a chance to give liquidity to those who want out and bring some very good long-term shareholders in. At Oren, our biggest strength has been our shareholder base. We are well aligned with that vision of getting that major discovery up north. And now I think we're actually going to see that kind of potential coming out of Eau Claire as well, which we're drilling year round. So incredible start to Fury. On tier 1 and Sombrero, I promised
you know what? I want to interject because I want to talk about Sombrero. This is okay. So just to unpack a few things there that you mentioned, because there was a lot there. And to your comment about, like, you know, why would a newsletter writer waste the energy to hate on criticizing the work other people doing is the easy part, right? Mm-hmm. You know, so everybody who watches this knows I focus on the people above everything else. And when I look at you, Ivan, I see a guy who's generated 500% returns for his shareholders twice before. But what's more exciting, and don't take offense when I see this, I see a guy with a chip on his shoulder who's not done yet, right? Oh, you feel like you haven't proven yourself yet, right? And so that's what I want to bet on. And that's why I wanted to have you back on. Now, separating Fury from the split makes sense, especially when you talk about Fury, because now you're directly you got a pure play gold company in a fantastic jurisdiction, and retail investors like simplicity. Like, I know that because I am one, right? Mm-hmm. When I look at a company, I want a very clear path to how I'm going to make money. And so if you have a company with a gold project, a silver project, and a copper project, it's less clear to me on how that share price is going to perform. With Fury, it's now simpler, right? And we'll get into with tier one, how that's now simpler. It's the silver play. Very exciting. But Sombrero was always kind of the crown jewel. I mean, when we're talking about Orin, right? It seems to be what people focused on. Now, so let's dive into the copper sector a little bit, because I know you're very bullish on copper, and I imagine you get some pushback on near-term copper prices and all this stuff. But what are you seeing, Ivan, in the copper market that's driving your bullish sentiment right now?
Overwhelming demand. I think that from the electrification of the planet, I mean, when I entered the business, there was around 4.5 billion on the planet. Now there's closer to 7.5 billion or so people. And when you look at the state of all the buildings and residences, and if you look at the massive push towards a greener planet, which I most certainly fully support, I want cleaner air for my children, their children, for many years to come. You think about electric cars, you think about better, high quality building materials, not so much they're going to involve a lot more copper. They'll all have a mandate of copper because of piping and electrical wires. And I remember when people were saying to me, on the way down, copper's at 208, Ivan, no one's going to care. Your sombreros and this and that. And I had every negative person coming at me. And I looked at the '08 prices of copper, gold, and all the metals, and I saw a deep V-shaped recovery, because there was a lot of stimulus that was injected in the capital on the backside of the takedown of those metal prices and of the economies. And I think that is another proponent that's going to go into what's going to happen here with the copper price. So simplify it. If you have an electric device in your hand, if you're watching me on a laptop, if you want to buy a new house once you make money on copper stocks, you're supporting the copper price. What no one's talking enough about is the paradigm for discovery has changed. All of the easy major deposits in all the geopolitically great places to be have been found. Unless you're navigating some tough geopolitical conditions, or you get the rare opportunity that a vendor hasn't marketed their optioned this property in decades, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder to go find world-class copper discoveries, which makes the copper market 10 times more valuable on a discovery basis than what you saw previously. So copper has been a boring performing metal, but now we all understand it is it's the new oil. As I've said before, copper is the new oil. It is the most important ingredient in everything that's going to grow our planet and make it greener. So think about that, and not just watch it and enjoy it. You can make money off of it by investing into copper companies. Now, personally, I like the 5, 10, 20x return on my investment. I like home runs. And that's why I'm still doing this. You said you have a chip on your shoulder. I do, because I haven't hit, the big enough home run yet, or multiple of them. And I think I have, or I believe strongly that we have the tools, we have the people, and we have the assets to deliver those massive home runs that I've dreamt about as a shareholder since I entered this business. In copper, I think the performance of copper discoveries is going to be outstanding if anyone makes them, because they're so rare to find.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And now, I watch a lot of these headlines. I'm not sure how much you let it bother you, or I guess capture your attention, I should say, not bother you, but there's some remarkably bullish forecasts coming out of Goldman Sachs, forecasting 2022 all-time high prices in copper, BHP forecasting demand to double within the next, I think, 20 or 30 years. And the copper business, though, so you touched on some important points there. A lot of investors that invest in copper, they're gold bugs, right? And the copper price starts appreciating, it captures your attention. I can certainly speak to that experience, but the business model is very different, specifically when it comes to the end game. So Ivan, now I'm asking the investor, how should you or anybody approach early stage copper companies? And is there any difference in how you would approach a gold company to a copper company?
Sure, there is a difference, and you're dealing with a much bigger proposition in terms of copper, to find something of consequence. Small copper mines won't make you much money. And I could say the same for small gold mines, but sometimes small gold mines are very rich in grade, and you can make a lot of money from those, right? I'd say that if you're going to look at it as an investor, which I do all the time, size matters, scale. We are competing in our Sombrero project to find something analogous to Las Bambas, which is the 10th largest copper producing mine on the planet. And that's just the first 10% of the land position we've put together, and there's more coming from that land position and some things that you're going to see with Sombrero. My point to every investor is look for size, because all the money is made off of big targets. They take longer, they're tough, and it's been a few years for us trying to get to drill our projects, and it's going to take other people time to get to these big discoveries. But if you get one of these right, Jay, you don't need to buy another mining stock. It's that kind of price return that you could potentially see as an investor, right? And that's what makes it all worthwhile. Size is expensive, but it's worth it. It's the same amount of energy to go find a small deposit as a big one. If you present a copper company to me, my first question to you is, how big is it? And the second question would be, what's the grade? Because that has to be there as well, right? We've seen copper grades, just like gold grades, come down over the last few decades of what mines used to be at. And now we're looking at much higher thresholds, because the quality of these mines is not what it used to be. The better quality ones, the easy ones, predominantly have been found. So I think in that sense, just think big, look for big. If it's not there, find something that's big, align your portfolio with the biggest copper swings out there in the market, and also people that can monetize your investment. You know, there's a lot of people that are very good at the science part of it, or, you know, they're out there trying to do their first thing. And I wish them all the luck, because I was one of those people. But we do weigh heavily on our opportunities. And, you know, we look for something big enough to get global attention, big enough to get major mining companies' attention, and big enough to get portfolio performance attention to compete with some of the larger mines ever found. And that's the kind of ingredients or DNA you should try to look for as an investor. That's certainly what I do.
I think that's really good advice. And, you know, it helps add contrast to the gold versus copper diligence process. That's the differentiator, because you're right. You know, even a small gold deposit can make sense, especially when you look at the potential suitors, you know, companies that might acquire you. There's junior producers, mid-tier producers, large caps. In the copper business, you're looking at 7, 8 companies that are completing those transactions. And so I think that's great advice for investors to focus on when you're looking at copper. Think scale first. Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit about the Ivan Bebek pipeline, right? We touched on Fury, you know, but we've got a couple other projects to look forward to. So let's jump into that. What can people look forward to next, Ivan?
Okay, great. So tier one metals, I've advertised that we were going to add a lot more to it between when it went off the listing in October 9th and went to be an unlisted but fully reporting issuer, and when it resumes trading, which is in February.
Yeah.
We've hit that out of the park behind the scenes, and there's a lot of news pending on tier one. We have, first of all, we're going to take a world-class silver swing, you know, which we think sits on top of a world-class potential porphyry on a belt of some of the largest mines in Peru that would rank globally in the top 20 copper mines on the planet. And then, you know, as we were not sure of what all this high-grade silver and gold meant that we were sampling, we went hunting for another project just in case tier one ended up as a one-hit wonder, which would be great if you hit it. And we now think, after seeing the subsurface results of our work, that there's a massive target there, or a couple big targets there. We went and found something better, or not a better, but something of quality that ranks as the top 3 things our former Newmont technical team has seen in their careers. And they've seen a lot around the globe, right? And I'll say it from this perspective. You know, tier one metals is going to come out the gates with a permit to drill on the silver asset. It's going to drill a silver swing first, and then after the silver, underneath it, we're going to target a big porphyry. And then on the backside of that, we're going to be getting ready to work and drill another major project on the coast of Peru. So, you know, the cool thing about tier one is not only did we get into real serious projects, and you'll see a lot of news on that shortly, but we also are on the coast. We don't need a complicated permit as we've been, you know, challenged with at Sombrero. It's quite simple, right? And we're going to be able to get permits and drill continuously. You haven't met the new CEO yet for tier one metals. You will meet him here shortly in Q1 before we resume trading.
Great.
We've chosen somebody that has the integrity and the ambition and the drive, but the strength in the capital markets. And we did this because we're very well outfitted with our technical team, a lot of former Newmont global experts. A former BHP individual just joined us down in Peru. We have some really strong technical personnel in Peru. And then Sean and myself have always been the quarterback of, you know, the DNA of our culture and the performance ambitions of our share price and the corporate decisions of, growing portfolios, buying, selling assets. The gentleman coming in has a very strong capital markets background. And that is something I want everyone to think about real seriously, because that's us thinking about performance on a proper shot to make a discovery. So, we're going to set the company up for success, not just with the drill bit, but for performance in the share price.
Okay. I love that. And you know what, I think we're going to see the conversation around silver beginning to change a little bit. I believe it will. And I say that because most of the conversation that I see when we talk about silver sentiment is tied to the gold price. Here's what gold did. Silver is going to slingshot based off of that relationship, right? And we know that's often the case. I don't put a lot of weight on the gold silver ratio, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But the sleeper, and it shouldn't really be a sleeper, but silver is a key ingredient when it comes to renewable energy. If you look at, call it like run of river, nuclear, wind, solar probably has the biggest upside potential. Most growth potential right now, and silver is a key ingredient in solar panels. However, I haven't seen a lot of the silver conversation focused on renewable energy. And when people talk about renewables, they go to copper, nickel, lithium, etc. So that conversation might start to change. Now, touch on Sombrero for us, Ivan. What can we expect from Sombrero in the next year?
So Sombrero has been an amazing swing from the start, and on technical work, we found a big one, and it's been recognized by a lot of third parties, and the rhetoric's amazing. But the challenge there has been getting permits and access to these communities. It's a delicate process, and it's interesting. A very, very good friend of mine, fund manager, asked me the other day, he said, hey, Ivan, you have these 3 companies, you chose to be CEO of Sombrero. It obviously is the best one. Should we read into that? And I said, you should read into it that it's the most amount of work. It's going to be the toughest one, because there's a very delicate, navigation through the communities. There's been a lot of corporate discussions on Sombrero, and we didn't want to interrupt or, change that flow that's been long-term coming. So what you should look forward to us in Q1, you should look forward to some more access agreements that we're going to get. We're trying to change the way we're permitting it so that we can actually have a pipeline to drill 3 different major targets, not the first one that we've advertised. We're also going to showcase a couple more big ones that we found in the land position in the north that we have not yet introduced to the market yet. So Sombrero is going to get better. We're going to have a better path forward with drilling. We're taking on an approach that will give us a chance where once we start drilling, it's a 12-month period to get the full picture versus the multi-year picture and constant permitting headaches and whatnot. And look forward to all of that to daylight before Sombrero comes trading. And in terms of how we put this whole thing together, we wanted to see Tier 1 get better, Sombrero get better before they resume drilling. And those 2 things are happening a lot better than we originally thought they would. And encouragingly, in an environment of metal price performance, the start of the bull, as we've talked about, I think those are going to be really, really strong performing companies for shareholders. And one last comment there on the silver. I'm not sure how much people think about this, but the best performing equity of any metal, it has been predominantly, it's been silver over time. For some reason, trade at double the multiples of gold companies. And so having that in Tier 1 is spectacular. As a mining entrepreneur, I've had 3 different dreams that have come into my fantasy of that chip on my shoulder or making those discoveries. And that's to conquer all 3 metals: gold, copper, and silver. I started as a gold bug. I see the potential for copper prices and copper equities to perform the way gold companies can through a discovery. And I've wanted a home run in silver since I knew about silver and saw some of these silver companies perform the way they do. But again, to the point earlier, size matters. I don't want a small discovery. I want a big one. And I think all 3 of these companies offer that across each one.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that vision, Ivan. That's exciting. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to touch on Torque Resources. You're the co-founder and co-chair, correct, of
Correct.
Torque Resources. Just give us a quick update on what we can expect in the near term from Torque.
So Torque's, we created this company about a decade ago, and it had the same ambitions of Oren, of Caden, of Keegan. What we did really well there was we were really picky. And all the shareholders who've waited a decade or even the last few years, probably cringing as I say that. But the wait is going to be more than worth it. We just announced the other day that we've hired a world-class exploration team down in Chile. We've chosen Chile as a place to go because of the caliber of copper and gold discoveries of the mines that are being found down there. Copper, #1 producer in the world of copper. Chile's #1. And so it's the land of elephants. You don't go there if there's nothing to acquire. Finding the right people to get you avenue to the right projects is the path. We've tipped our hat there. We've got the people, and the first quarter, you're going to start to see the projects come into it. The only thing that I want people to think about in Torque is the caliber of things we're going after in Chile are of the same caliber of Sombrero and what we're doing in southern Peru with our tier 1 and Sombrero resources, right? Sean Wallace, my partner, you're going to hear a lot from him in Q1 and onward. He's the executive chairman now of the company. I haven't been demoted as director. I have had to relinquish that so Sean could take center stage as the executive chairman. But I think everybody will be thrilled when he gets into the mix with Torque, and he's been really, really working hard towards getting these assets. So I'll say one final remark for Torque. The quality of the opportunities are big, and they are more than worth the wait. You're going to see copper and gold swings that would compete and rival the opportunities we have in Sombrero and tier 1. If you're asking me, why do you compete with yourself? We were long down the road before this, and we think we're going to deliver discovery across the group, and it's going to benefit each of the companies that we represent going forward. So very exciting time.
Okay, I love that, and thank you for sharing. Now, I'll finish on this note, and I've quoted this quote from Rick Rule a handful of times, but I just love it so much. He told me recently on an interview, he said, Jay, if I had only bet on the same 3 or 4 individuals throughout my career, I would have made 10 times as much money and worked a 10th as hard as I had to. Now that's easier to say in hindsight. You can reflect back on your career, look at all the good decisions you made and say, if I only made the good decisions, I'd be, easier said than done. But that's our challenge, right? As retail investors, that's our challenge, guys. We're trying to find those people of the next generation. And I say with confidence, Ivan, you're one of them, right? And I'm not trying to embarrass you here. I'm very bullish on Ivan Bebek, but I don't recreate the wheel. I follow the leader. Everybody who watches this show knows it. I follow the smart money and the top performers. Ross Beatty has called out Ivan Bebek as his top pick of CEO. If you look at Ivan's deals in the past, he continually attracts the smartest money in the business. Look at his shareholder base. And that's not an accident. It comes off the successes of Keegan Resources and Caden Resources, big acquisitions in tough markets. I'm very excited about your strategy. Thanks for sharing the grand vision, why you did the split and what you're looking to accomplish within your career, because it helps onboard us and anybody watching this into what you're doing and your plan. So Ivan, it was great catching up with you. I want to do it again soon. And I appreciate the update. It's always good connecting.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.